What's up, Facebook world or social media world or whatever you call it. Anyway, so with 24 hours, less than 24 hours actually, between the All Star Special versus the Hierarchy for the IWE Tag Team Champions, where I've put my career on the line if we don't win the titles. Somebody gave me a great idea that I should actually do like a Q&A or an interview about just questions. People just send me in questions, things they want to know about me personally or my thoughts about wrestling that I've garnered or I've done over the past 18 years. So I got a nice long list of questions, uh, and let's get to it. So I'm gonna try to answer some of the questions. I'm not going to answer completely. Some of the answers I might just kind of, politic my way out of, just to, with the exception of one question, I'm going to change some of the names to protect the innocent if that may occur or whatever. So let's get down to it. First question, Aaron Black. Oh God, I hate that guy. Sum up my 18-year career. Um, I would say I'm very fortunate. I've been able to travel the country. I've been able to go to different countries. I've been able to pay my bills through professional wrestling, especially as an independent wrestler. There's not a lot of guys that have that opportunity. So I was actually able to pay my bills and support my family for a while, definitely pre COVID, before independent wrestling. Oh, before I forget, this is actually my favorite coffee mug. It's if anybody knows those caramel chewy things, those cowtails. Besides honey buns, is one of my favorite candies. It's definitely my favorite non-pastry sweet. And my tag team partner, Hope Bear Hansen, actually got me the display cup from a gas station and gave it to me. And so now I use it as a coffee cup, which is pretty dope. So don't judge me. Oh, by the way, this is non decaf coffee for anybody wondering because I've had a heart attack and stuff. This is non decaf coffee, so you don't have to worry about the caffeine. I just drink it for the taste, actually. Next question, Ricky Owens, biggest influence. I don't know. That's Ricky. Actually, that's kind of difficult because different wrestlers have influenced me through different parts of not only my career but my life. The person that made me want to get into professional wrestling was Arn Anderson. I'm a huge Arn Anderson fan, which is why I use the Spine Buster. So many other things. You know what I'm saying? I'm a huge. A lot of things that I do in my matches, I've stolen or borrowed from Arn Anderson and his illustrious career. Um, in my professional wrestling career, I would say one of the biggest influences on me as far as a black wrestler. And I know this is probably not the answer you're looking for, but as far as a black wrestler, one of my biggest influences was Shane Marks. There was a point, probably about 10, 11 years ago, where I was really ready to quit. I was wrestling in North Carolina. I really wasn't getting anywhere. I was sending out emails and messages and everything, and I really wasn't getting booked. And uh, back then, there wasn't a lot of, especially in North Carolina where I was at, on the eastern part of the coast, on the eastern part of the state, there wasn't a lot of creativity when it came to black wrestlers. You were either what they call the thug, or you was Carlton Banks. You was the educated guy, or you was Carlton Banks. And I kind of got stuck in this gimmick as being uh, William A. Huckabee, the All American African American from Brown University, which was a gimmick I absolutely fucking hated. And I was ready to quit. And one day I was in the bedroom and I was just looking at companies to send off my message to. Uh, and well, actually, I was looking at companies to send my message to, and I sent off some emails, and I didn't get a response for like 2 days. And so I was just like, "F it! I'm going to sell my gear, sell my boots. I'm done with wrestling. Like, obviously, this is getting me nowhere." And then I saw a video of Shane Marks. Uh, I think it was Shane Marks versus Davey Richards, or it might have been, no, it might have been either Davey Richards or Samoa Joe, one of the two. And I was like, damn, this dude's like kind of built like me. He's not 6'5" and jacked like a bodybuilder, but like he's dope as shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, And so I contacted the company Platinum Championship Wrestling, and the rest is history. So, um, yeah, I guess Arn Anderson is my influence for one for loving wrestling. Shane Marks is my influence for staying in professional wrestling, and then Mark James, wrestling in North Carolina, is my influence on as far as how I react to young talent as a vet. Mark James was very patient. He ruled with a velvet glove fist, if that makes sense. A velvet gloved iron fist, I guess is the saying. Um, he was very understanding and he would talk to us, but at the same time, he would put the hammer down. And to this day, Mark James still, he's no nonsense. He's not, he's a Marine and stuff. He's no nonsense. He's no BS. He'll tell you what you need to hear, but at the same time, he'll coach you and he'll motivate you. And so I've really, in the past few years, I've really tried to implement that when I'm talking to younger talent. So there you go. Arn Anderson, Shane Marks, Mark James. Sweeper, Jack Miles. One piece of wrestling advice. I tell young talent this all the time. Take your craft seriously. Don't take yourself seriously. When I broke into the business, there was this phrase they used to say about guys living the gimmick. Um, and it's time, it's very, if you think about Ultimate Warrior, where he was the Ultimate Warrior 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no days off, and it kind of irritated the boys and stuff. Don't be that guy, in my opinion. Don't be that guy. You know, take your craft and what we do inside those ropes. Um, in front of the crowd. Take that seriously. Learn your craft, learn your trade, become good at it. So take that very seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. Be able to have fun, be able to create, to experiment and create new moves or create new gimmicks or whatever they or create new looks. Throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. So that's my biggest piece of wrestling advice. Uh Andrew Knowles. Favorite Anarchy match. Um, this one comes with a backstory. So my favorite Anarchy match is my match versus Marcus Cross, and the reason being, and I know this is gonna cause some shit, but I have to tell the story to understand why. Bill Behrens came up to me and he said, "Hey Huck, I want to do this match with you versus." He's like, I want to do this match. And I was like, okay, what's up, Bill? He said, I want to do this match with you and Marcus, hardcore match or whatever the case may be. And I was like, okay, cool. And he was like, here's why I want to do the match. He's like, I watch. It's like, Marcus and Griff, they're from Firestar up in North Carolina. And I was like, yeah, love Cozone. Da, da. He's like, well, I don't like anything they do at Firestar for the most part. He's like, I watched that last show. He's like, there really wasn't nothing that I enjoyed. But I enjoyed you and Marcus Cross's match. He's like, I loved it. It was super creative, and I wish I would have had it here at Anarchy first. He's like, but since I can't, I'm going to do it anyway. Um, and me and Marcus had a really good match. He came out with the Muda paint on. We did uh, the Iron Coffin off the top rope, and then he did the double stomp off the top rope and stuff. Um, the worst part of that match was that Bill told me because Marcus, is a legit black belt in martial arts, legit. The kid's legit as it comes. And so, in martial arts, they have those boards they use for breaking. So Bill was like, hey, we got these breaking boards, but don't worry because they're kind of already pre-cut. We gimmicked them up, so you don't have to worry about it. I was like, all right, cool, Bill, I'll take him. He's like, he'll hit you at one, and you'll no sell, then he'll hit you with two, you'll no sell, and then hit you with three, and then you'll sell that. And I'm like, all right, Bill, no problem. And during the match, he hits me with the first one, and I realized those boards are not gimmicked whatsoever. And Marcus just blasts the shit out of me. And I no sell it. And he goes to the second one. I was like, F this, I'm not taking another one to the head like that. So I kind of put my hands up and bam, it breaks over my forearms, and it was cool like that. I will say this though, Marcus Cross, top five stiffest people I've ever been in the ring with, hands down. There are only four other men in wrestling that I could say after wrestling them, I felt like I was in a bar fight. And those other four men were Rodney Mack, Damian Wayne, Joe Black, of course, and uh, 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 um, I can't remember his name now. Ooh. Ooh, ooh. Actually, Mark James. Yeah, four stiffest people I've ever been in the ring with. But yeah, Marcus Cross beat the shit out of me. It was horrific. Um, Terry Lawler, the man, the legend. Oh, I don't even know. I should come on, Terry. What can I answer for the record? Terry Lawler. Look, people in Georgia wrestlers. Uh, if Terry Lawler is anywhere near you, talk to that man. Like Terry Lawler is a legend. He is a gift. You will be surprised. You go to other states, and very few states have someone have a vet, a legit 30-plus year vet like Terry Lawler, who's in great shape, who's still having amazing matches, who's still willing to teach. Terry, I love you. Jesus, I love you, Terry. But the one thing that made me humble in a match, or where I was like, I get it. One thing that made me humble. I think the one match or one thing in wrestling that made me humble was this is terrible. I was thinking I was super hot shit, and I was the champion for this company called Evolution Wrestling or something in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and I was working Ricky Morton for the championship, and I was hyped, and I'm like, oh man, I got this in the bag. Blah 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 blah. And then I completely screwed the pooch. Um, I hit the ropes and I missed the top rope and I fell off the ring and I knocked myself silly. I don't know how I finished the match, but that match was luckily Ricky had to work Joe right afterwards, so I kind of covered up my blown spot. But man, it was bad. And it humbled me to make me realize, like, hey, as good as you think you are, you're never quite that good. And I also had a friend tell me that one time too. Told me he told me like 15 years ago. He was like, as good as you are now, you will be 20 times better in 10 years if you stick with this. And he did not lie. I can't even watch a lot of my matches from the beginning of my career because they are so god awful. Oh, my tag team partner Hanson, greedy. Of course, tag team partners would ask like couldn't just ask one. He had to ask three. So Uh, what match did wrestling finally click with me? Who man? Let me take a sip. And a vape. Hmm. I was working this legend or vet. I'm sorry, in North Carolina called Viper. Um, in Wilson, North Carolina, maybe it's for Danger Zone Wrestling. Which, if you see me in the locker room, just ask me about Danger Zone Wrestling and the talent he had in the locker room at one point and how he completely screwed the pooch on that shit. Um, but I just came back. I had pulled my groin muscle and I tore my abdominal wall, and so I wasn't really able to take a lot of bumps. It was like my second or third match back. But it was me versus the promoter and the booker, so obviously it's the main event. And I was the big, huge heel, and of course he's the booker and he's the hometown hero and he's the baby face, and so he, is biggest heel versus face and stuff. And so we're in the main event, and it was our first time wrestling, and we get into the ring and we're standing there. And the best way I can describe it is like that Rock Hogan match, WrestleMania match, where they're just standing there looking at each other. And literally, we're standing there looking at each other, and the fans are going ape shit. Not like WWE ape shit, but you guys get it. But they really were going ape shit. And they're booing me and they're cheering him. And I'm getting ready to lock up, and he's like, hold on, kid. Don't move. Take it in. And I'm just standing there, and I'm standing there. And then as soon as we locked up, it was like a lightning bolt went just shot straight down through my body, and a light. Somebody had cut the lights on in the house because as soon as we locked up, I was like, "Oh shit, I get it. This is so like wrestling is so easy. Like, why has this been so difficult for the past 5, 6 years? Like 5, 5, 6, 7 years? Like, This is so easy. Like, holy shit, I could do this in my sleep. So there we go. Me versus Viper. Danger Zone Wrestling. Yeah. Worst riding partner. If you ask anybody's ever been in the car with me, they'll say that I'm the worst riding partner they've ever had because if I'm not driving, I'm sleeping. Um, and then Hanson and Jay don't like the way I drive because I'm always overcorrect. I fidget and I have ADHD, so I'm always kind of fidgeting with the wheel and turning the wheel or whatever. Um, but in my opinion, worst riding partner, not because he's a bad person, uh, but Joe. A, because he's like an annoying little brother. B, um, Joe doesn't do long distance drives like that. Like if we one time we had to go from Buffalo, New York to Atlanta, and I think out of that 15-hour drive, Joe drove maybe 3 hours. Actually, I'm wrong. I'm lying. Uh, it'll be James Drake and Timmy Lou Retton, two worst driving partners ever. I drove all the way from PWF in Jacksonville, North Carolina, to Cornelia, Georgia for Anarchy. We had a George South, and I can remember the other guy's name, but it's not that important. John Moxley's trainer. We had a seminar with them, and we were all very excited. So as soon as the show was over with, we jumped in the car, drove to Cornelia. We did the seminar. We all got picked for the show. We all did the show. Then we had to drive back. Then we had to drive to Greensboro, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'll drive all the way there if y'all can drive on the way back, at least until I drop y'all off." And they were like, "All right, cool." So we get 30 minutes down the road. James Drake jumps in the car. Yeah, I got it, guys. And he drove maybe 30 minutes. And he was like, bro, I can't do it anymore. I'm exhausted. I can't do it. So Tim is like, I got it, man. I can drive the next 3.5 hours. So Tim gets in the car. And Tim, after about an hour, Tim is like, he nudges me. He's like, Huck, I'm swerving. We're going to crash if I keep driving. So I think I had about maybe a 45-minute nap, and I had to get back in the driver's seat and drive. And it wasn't like we could pull over on the side of the road and like sleep because we all had places to be, and they had like connecting rides with somebody else to go to their next shows in separate areas. So that was the worst driving experience I've had. Smelliest gear. I'm not gonna tell you who's had the smelliest gear, but for people who were wrestling in Eastern North Carolina, they will remember this story. So I was working for a company, which at one point was my home company, and we had to wrestle at a skating rink, I do believe. It was a skating rink or a bowling alley, one of the two. But they had us changing in the hallway, and it's a long L-shaped hallway, whatever. Boop boop, and we're all in there. It's like 20 something wrestlers, referees, everybody, just all the talent was in this hallway. And this dude opens his gear bag, and literally all you smelt was funk and cat piss. And it literally stank up the entire fucking hallway. It was horrendous to where I think the vets in the locker room ended up moving his bag all the way down to the opposite end of the hallway. And then somebody pulled him to the side and was like, "Hey man, you really need to wash your fucking gear." Um, but it was bad to the point where I want to say one of the guys actually threw up. One of the guys who were from Virginia that was in the hallway actually threw up. I do believe it was really that bad. Um, with that going, Duncan Cannon says the importance of washing gear. Um, Washing gear, not just washing gear, just hygiene. Um, you need to be clean in the ring. We, for the most part, we're is skin on skin contact. Um, Clip your nails. Um, well, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but if you smoke, and this is something I learned later, if you smoke, pop some gum in, deodorant. If you really like the guy, put on some cologne, unless he's allergic or she. Sorry for misgendering people, unless your person you're working is allergic to cologne. Um, you don't have to smell great, just don't smell bad, if that makes sense. It's a respect thing, it's a hygiene thing. Because the last thing you want to do, or last thing you want to be, is the smelly guy in the locker room. But you also don't want to be the reason why somebody gets a staph infection. Um, as much as the same way we as wrestlers don't like wrestling in dirty, nasty rings, we don't want to wrestle against somebody who's dirty and sweaty and nasty as well. Um, yeah, if you ever had a staph infection, you know you'll understand where I'm coming from. Larry Sykes, Mr. Larry, my man from Cracker Pro Wrestling. What's up, Mr. Larry? Toast. Has someone ever ribbed me? Yes. Aldo Schwann's ribbed me. I had to work him. I was green as hell, and I had to work him. And as a greenhorn, I walked up to him. I said, "How you doing, Mr. Swans? My name is Will Huckabee. We'll be working with each other tonight. I'll do what you tell me what you want. Tell me where you want me to be. Tell me what you want me to do. I'll be there and I'll do it." And he got up and left. He just walked off. He looked at me, walked off. And so I went back, asked him again, got up, walked off. Right before our match, while the match before us was in the ring, he comes up to me. He's like, "You ever see those experiments that scientists do where they take a maze and they put cheese in the middle of the maze?" I'm like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "The ring is the maze. Winning is the cheese. We're gonna put a rat in the maze. And the rat's gonna go around through the maze. And right before he gets to the cheese, we're gonna drop a cat. And the cat's chasing the rat, and the rat's still trying to get to the cheese. And right before the cat gets the rat who's about to eat the cheese, we're gonna drop a dog in that bitch. And now the dog is chasing the cat who's chasing the rat who's just trying to get the cheese. And before the dog bites the cat who eats the rat, takes a bite of the cheese, you're gonna slip on a banana peel. I'm gonna slip on a banana peel. We're gonna tango through Texas. I'm gonna take your cookie, and we're gonna go home." And I had no idea what the fuck that meant. And I was just like, "Yes, sir." We go out there, we have a great match. Lo and behold, he enjoyed working with me. So he kept telling Count Grog, "Hey, whenever that kid's here, put him with me, put him with me." And I would go every time. I would go up to him. And I would talk to him like, "Hey, how you doing, Otto? We're working tonight," and he would just ignore me. He would never talk to me. Never. I would introduce myself. I'm like, "Well, maybe he's had concussions. He has bad memory. Maybe he just doesn't remember me. Whatever." And like he would never talk to me. And this went on for about 6 months, where I would go up and introduce myself, and he would never talk to me, but he would always use some kind of weird way of explaining whatever he was going to do in the ring. And so finally one day I was like, "Hey man, can I ask you a question?" And he's just looking at me. I was like, "What the fuck have I done to you?" I was like, "If I pissed you off or I fucked up in the ring, I apologize. I'm green and I know I fuck up all the time. Just tell me what I need to do to get better." And he looks at me and he's like, "It's about time, kid." He's like, "I was just waiting for you to snap. He's like, I've been ribbing you the whole time." It's kind of an asshole move, but yeah. That's probably the most Facebook friendly rib I can tell you people have done to me. B Watt. Thoughts on Mr. Perfect being Eric Silva's favorite jobber? Or what was I thinking when Eric Silva said Mr. Perfect was his favorite jobber? Probably think what everybody who's watching this video is right now, which is true. We were in the locker room at Pro South, and we were talking about our favorite job guys back in the 80s, early 90s. And mine is Barry Horowitz, because what's better than this? And Eric Silva said that his favorite job guy from the 80s and 90s was Mr. Perfect. Yeah. Kenneth Buckner. Have I ever worked a midget? No. I've been in locker rooms with little people. Never been in the ring with one. But if I was, I wanted that Mexican. I wanted that lucha spot where he like drop kicks the guy. He does like the fucking somersaults and hits the fucking guardrail. Definitely want to recreate that scene. Sea Dog, Matthew Collins, favorite moment in my career. Ooh. Favorite moment in my career would actually be winning Mentor of the Year. Because everybody else that was in that category, Murder and Todd Sexton and everybody else, you know what I'm saying? Like, to be considered to for your peers to say that you're the Mentor of the Year was kind of heartwarming, especially because I was like, there's no chance in hell I'm gonna get it. I don't at that time, I'm not wrestling a bunch of places. I'm giving advice where I can, but yeah, but Um, and in my opinion, anytime you win an award that's voted on by the boys, it should be applauded. Yeah. Mike Sutton, Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Are we talking independent wrestling? Are we talking about generations? Are we talking about wrestling overall? We're talking about the four greatest wrestlers or the four greatest workers. So there's a difference. But in the spirit of your question, I'm going to go with you're just talking about workers, um, and not who made the most amount of money, or we're just talking about popularity. Like I'm not sure. Um, but if we're going to go with that, I'll say the four. How about this? We'll say in my opinion, the four greatest wrestlers of all time, and then we'll do one for what I'm saying. Yeah, four greatest wrestlers of all time. Ric Flair. Um, Not because I think he's the greatest. I don't think he's the greatest wrestler of all time. I don't think he's the greatest worker of all time either. But there is something to be said about his influence on professional wrestling. So Ric Flair, um, Hulk Hogan, same thing. Not a great wrestler, not a great person, but his impact on professional wrestling, you can't deny it. Uh, John Cena, because John Cena might be the greatest wrestler of all time. I mean, as far as consistency, as far as uh, work rate, as far as contributions to the business. I mean, the dude learned Mandarin just because he thought that WWE was going to go to China. So, what does that say? So let's see, Flair, Hogan, Cena, um, and Undertaker. There we go. Flair, Hogan, Cena, Undertaker. There you go. Boom. I felt like such a cop out. Really, that entire list really felt like a cop out. What Sea Dog? C Dub, Chris C Dub, right, my man. What moment? I think he has two questions. Let me look. Hold on, because he's greedy too. He's wasting too. No, he didn't. Okay. Uh, what moment made me to stop? Made me decide to stay in wrestling until the wheels fall off? I don't. I don't think there's any one definitive moment for any wrestler where we decide, oh, I'm in this till the wheels fall off. Um, you just know, like, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. Your passion is what drives you, and then when your body tells you it's time to take a break or it's time to quit, you just kind of quit. uh, I can tell you that after I had my heart attack, getting back into the wrestling ring was probably one of the most important things for me, um, because it wasn't about being an inspiration to other people. It was um, to let people know that I'm not dead yet. I still have some fight left in me. So I felt like quitting wrestling after my heart attack or taking like a year long break like they wanted me to would have been a cop out. So there's no answer for that, C Dub. I don't really know. Matthew Daniels, how did I get into the business? Ooh, man. So I started off as a backyarder. And I was working at a gas station. This guy came in and he said, "Hey, can I hang up this flyer?" And I said, "What was it for?" He said it was for a wrestling show. I was like, "Pro wrestling?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Like the WWE stuff?" And he said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh shit, hell yeah." So hangs up the flyer. I end up going to the show. After the show, I stick around and I talk to one of the wrestlers. Actually, it was Damian Wayne. And I said, "Hey, I want to do what you guys do. Like I'm kind of doing some stuff with my friends in his yard, but I want to do what you guys do." And he said, "You have to get trained." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll go get. Is there any schools around here?" And he says, "I don't know if there's any schools around here, but that guy, the promoter, trains people." I'm not gonna mention the dude's name. Well, I can now because fuck it. It's been 18 years. His name was Valid Charles something. Charles Ponder. So I paid Charles Ponder. I talked to the guy. He says you have to pay a tryout fee, and then it's $3,000. I said, "How much is the tryout fee?" He says, "Tryout fee is $500. It's non-refundable." All right, cool. He said, "Be here Sunday." So Sunday I go, I give him $500 in cash. And then I had the 3,000 actually in my pocket also in cash. And so I do the tryout. They beat the fuck out of me. I pay him the 3,000 in cash. Um, Long story short, he leaves after 10 months. And I learned moves, but I didn't know psychology. And so I end up being retrained by the guys I consider my trainers now, which was this dude, Danny Baumgartner, uh, Miss TNT, Christina Millen, and then James Soretti, who was known as Jagger, and then this dude Scab. And those are the four guys, the four people I consider my actual trainers. They actually taught me ring psychology and everything else. Danny and Miss TNT, Tina, they were actually there with Charles. They were kind of like his assistant trainers. And so they were helping me out when they could and stuff. And they really did a good job of mentoring me. But Scab and Jagger really took me and finessed me and showed me what they knew. And then the connections they had, they used that to introduce me to other guys and get me to other places. So that's it. Boom. I was a backyarder who got trained by a bunch of nobody. Well, I was a backyarder who got trained by what what people would consider a bunch of nobodies. But to me, Scab and Jagger, Danny and and Tina were amazing fucking people. So just let that go to be shown. You don't have to go to some crazy ass school by some WWE legend to make it or to be successful. Because, you know, everybody's journey is different. Jay Breezy, favorite match. I have, when you ask this question, I start thinking. Um, of course, a lot of people would say me and Joe Black's dog collar match would probably be my favorite because that's the match that is so widely talked about. It's a lot of people's favorite hardcore dog collar match or favorite match in recent memory. And it's got so much publicity for the most part, figuratively speaking. Um, I have three favorite matches, and I love all of them equally. And they're all on YouTube for you to watch. Me versus Kyle Mack in North Carolina. Mainly because we were on a show with a bunch of indie names and a bunch of legends, and they kind of overlooked us, and we're just the two local kids, and they really overlooked us. And they put us in the second match, and if anybody knows me, they know I really despise being the second match in the card. Um, but they put us as a second match, and I took that personally, and so I talked to Kyle, and I was like, "We're gonna steal this fucking show." And they might have came here for the main event to see these guys, but they're gonna leave talking about us. And that is the match that started me doing ridiculous fucking shit in big high profile matches. Because in that match, he has me in the tree of woe on the outside. So I'm hanging on the outside of the ropes in the corner instead of on the inside. And he does a double stomp to my jaw while I'm hanging upside down the tree of woe. And we both just fall straight to the floor with no padding. Yeah. And then my other, so it's Joe Black, my match, dog match with Joe Black, the match with Kyle Mack, and then my match, which was a minute and 20 seconds versus Tyler Gaines at USIWF. Shout out to Coach Gary. We literally did a minute and a half match. And that was a match that for a long time I would send out to promoters and bookers of saying, hey, this is what I can do. I can give you a solid 2 minute match with the shine, heat, telling a story, everything. Like, this is the match. So thank you to Coach Gary, and thank you to Tyler Gaines for that. Tyreek, the pusher, Tyreek, who gave me the nickname Hulk or Huck? Nobody. That's my actual name, Will Huckabee. Now the Incredible Huck part, that was Joe. We was riding the car, and we are just thinking of different monikers, and he was like, "Why don't you just be the Incredible Huck?" He was like, He's like, one of your favorite comic book characters is the Incredible Hulk. He's like, you're kind of very similar to him, where you're big, you get angry, you're strong as shit. He was like, and it kind of matches. He's like, and your favorite color is green. Just be the Incredible Hulk. And I was like, cool. And so I went and got some gear made, and the rest is history. I know this is getting long, y'all. We're like 35 minutes. I apologize. You would think I was some fucking whatever. Uh, Aubrey Wright. This might be my favorite question. My Ultimate Survivor Series match, where it's myself and four guys that I've worked versus five guys I haven't worked but want to. All right, my ultimate. So my team would be myself, Vordell Walker, Joe Black. Hold on, myself, Vordell Walker, Joe Black, Rodney Mack, and Chip Day. Um, yeah, and then five guys that I've wanted to face but haven't. Nick Aldis, Adam Pierce, Kyle Matthews, Todd Sexton, and Darius Carter. Yeah, Nick Aldis, Scrap Daddy Adam Pierce, fucking Kyle Matthews, Darius Carter. Who's the fifth person I said? I can't remember now. Oh, Todd Sexton. Boom. So that would be the five right there. I think that'd be it's kind of. I feel like I need to put a black guy on the other team because we have Chip Day. I feel like I got to put like one black guy on the other team, but whatever. Who cares, man? Um, and then Eric McMillan for the final question: biggest takeaway from wrestling. Here we go. Biggest takeaway from wrestling. Um, Wrestling is not about what we do inside the ropes. Because when you're done wrestling, or you can see when you can see the finish line, it's not the matches that you think about. It is the places you've traveled and the friends that you've met, or the friends that you've made, and the people you've met. Uh, and with this match coming up tomorrow, I really wish I could have done like some people and done like a victory lap because I have so many people that I've met in so many different states and so many different countries that I would have liked to have wrestled in. I would have liked to have wrestled in my hometown one more time. I would like to have wrestled in West Virginia and Jersey and Florida and Tennessee and Texas and worked with Bad Blood back in Oregon and going to see my man's over there, Billy Simmons over in Kansas. Um, I would like to have worked the fucking WrestleCade at least once. Brian, Tracy, well, correction, I have worked WrestleCade. I worked the first two WrestleCades. Okay, I would like to work a WrestleCade recently. Not a WrestleCade, it's WrestleCade. Um, but no, seriously, my biggest takeaway from pro wrestling is enjoy the ride, man. Fuck. It goes by so fast. 18 years has been a long time. My entire, like, my youngest son, all of my kids, actually, they've only known me as a professional wrestler. They've owned their entire lives. Daddy has hardly ever been here on the weekends. Daddy has always missed sporting events on the weekends and parties and cookouts and sometimes holidays, or he would be here on the holiday and he would have to leave that night or the afternoon for a show. And when he came home, he's all beat up and bruised. Um, Wrestling doesn't love us. As much as you love wrestling, it will never love you back. But the memories you make and the friendships you develop makes it fucking worth it. Yeah, Eric. That's my takeaway from wrestling. Anyway, um, right at 40 minutes. So Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to be in Augusta, Georgia, Saturday tomorrow. IWE, the Hierarchy All-Star Special, career versus titles. Also, check me out at the merch stand. Selling the One More Fight t-shirts. It's the only time I'm ever going to sell them. If you don't get it tomorrow, you're never going to get one. So, yeah. Anyway, this is the Incredible Hulk saying, hopefully I see you guys on the other side. But if not, fuck, man. It's been a wild fucking ride. It's been a wild ride. And I regret nothing. See ya.